Hi, I'm Vanessa Hope, and I'm very excited to be here with filmmaker Hasan Hani, coming to us from Baghdad. He's an Iraqi filmmaker with Iraq's first Oscar shortlisted film, The President's Cake, an incredible movie that Ted and I were lucky to see in Middleburg, though it actually won the Camera d'Or in Cannes. We are doing a hopeful video conversation for Ted Hope Substack and look forward to you checking this out. So, Hassan, really, truly excited to have you here. Thank you for being here. Um, the premise of your film is so simple, but so terrifying. A child is chosen to bake the president's cake, and that president is Saddam Hussein. So there are real consequences if she fails. The title itself sounds almost festive, but even absurd, but there are real life stakes, life and death stakes. And so I wonder what felt important for you to capture about how authoritarian power infiltrates something as intimate and ordinary as a kitchen or a school day, and how did you navigate that tonal tightrope between dark humor, childhood curiosity, and the very real fear that comes with disobeying a dictator?
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for having me. The story feels a bit absurd, but I think that's something in the spirit of dictatorships. I was born and raised in Iraq under Saddam Hussein's regime. Lots of things at that time felt very absurd. One of them was the fact that we had to bake or celebrate his birthday, despite the sanctions that was imposed by the UN. And it was absurd. Not just because we have to celebrate his birthday, but like all of this is happening at a time when people don't have access to medications, essential items like food, flour, rice, sugar, all of that. And the only way to get that is through black market. So in a way, it feels really strange that the president is asking you to bake a cake when he literally has illegalize any access to flour or sugar. Uh, so it feels like a dark joke. But that's only one example of many examples that we struggled with or like suffered under dictatorship. The tonal shift comes from the literally from growing up under this regime. There is so much misery that you go through, so much struggle and hardship that you go through, and in order to overcome those and have escape of all that darkness is to ridiculize the misery. So that's why, like in the film, you see some dark humor that comes from the really organic, from the way that people used to speak and make fun of some miseries or like unhappiness that they would face in Iraq.
Mm. We call that gallows humor, and it's very familiar to me. My whole family sort of lives and speaks in gallows humor. So the marshes are really a visually rich historical setting,
Yeah.
especially given their destruction and repression under Saddam. I wonder how you thought about using the landscape and the house, water, mud, domestic space as part of the film's visual language. Yeah.
So the marshes are very much within the Iraq's identity and heritage. And I found the marshes to be the perfect place to start the story from because, first of all, it actually serves the theme, the tone of the film, which is, has a touch of fabulism and fairy tale. And that's like, I think the marshes really feels like that.
Mm.
And the other thing is that it's so is a place. It was a place that many people say was the birth of civilization, the birth of Epic of Gilgamesh, Gardens of Eden. So it's like lots of legends about this place, and I felt very much like inclined to tell a story about from that starts from the marshes, but also the marshes was the only place that Saddam was one of those places that Saddam purposefully destroyed because it started to hide some opposition figures against him and what he started to do is to salt in the water, and that's what we see in the beginning of the film. And then later on, he cut out the water and destroyed one of the oldest marshes in the world. And that was like one of the biggest also environmental crisis in the history of the country. The marshes came back, and I felt like it's such a symbolizing way that the nature, after all the attempts to destroy the nature, somehow found a way to, to be the victorious.
It's an incredible setting, and I've never seen anything like it on film. We've seen so many.
Yeah, I mean, people in the marshes still live the same lifestyle that they used to live 7,000 years ago.
Wow.
Is the houses that are made of reed and the boats, and people and everyone uses the boats to do everything to transfer from school from their houses to the school or to do anything. So it was for me also the setting again. I felt like the setting the marshes strengthens the theme, the tone of the film, and it was just a perfect place for us.
Your cinematography is so evocative and powerful and beautiful. And I'm wondering if you could talk about your collaboration with your cinematographer, some of your camera choices, the framing and movement, your closeness to our 9-year-old girl protagonist, Lamia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I Tito did a great job on this film, and we made all the choices like with intention, in a sense of like the framing, the aspect ratio, and even the camera choice. We early on, my cinematographer Tito was here in Iraq, in Baghdad, and we made all the location scouting, and he did lots of photographs that because we wanted to try the look of the film, the colors, and all that. But also, we felt that there is a style of cinematography that we need to adapt because we are dealing with many actors, and we need to minimize the editing and allow the authentic performances to come out on the screen as it is with minimal editing interference. So that's why we have lots of long takes that you know um, has maybe a cut or two, but at the same time, we try to block the actors and everyone in the scene in a way that feels organic, but at the
Mm.
same time doesn't make the audience aware of the long take or like bored by the long take.
Yeah.
So that, one long shot that can be wide, medium, close up, like changes within the time within the scene. Other things that we also try to be careful about is also the vastness of the landscape
Mm.
and the idea of the journey that these characters have in the film felt very much something we were we intended to capture within our frame aspect and aspect ratio and the lenses that we chose because we shot the film on anamorphic lenses, and I feel like that was the perfect choice also for the film.
Yeah, I'm so impressed that you found non-actors because the performances are so authentic and real feeling, so moving. Was that a hard process? I'm just curious how you found your actors.
Uh, all of our acting, all of our actors are non-professional actors, and it was straight casting. So we had to, and we don't have, but that was something I was aware of. That was a challenge I was aware of because when I started writing, I knew this film will be handled by two kids, one main kid, another supporting, and it will be a lot of work to find the right kids because we don't have any resources to tap into. For example, we don't have acting schools for children. We don't have this kind of resources that we can go to. And instead, what we did, it was like literally me and a bunch of friends and crew members on set that on set, like in the film, that we would look around, like we look into every school, every I don't know sports club, every mall, everywhere that we could possibly look, we looked in until we found the right people that we were thinking that would be perfect for the role. the main actress Lamia is actually the one that we found the last,
Wow.
and we found her through a clip. Someone, one of the crew members was walking around, and then he saw this girl and a bunch of kids outside the school, and he recorded each one of them saying their name, school, and class, and one of them was Lamia. And immediately when I saw this 30 seconds video, I felt that she is the person, that she is the girl that can carry this film. But with non-actors come some challenges. One of them, like, we had to convince the family that this is something, that would be very much opening so many doors for the kids. Put them on a different level, and it gives them like a very unique experience. At the beginning, they were a bit against it because they were also coming from a conservative society, and after some convincing and involving them in the process, they became very much supportive of the whole thing.
Yeah. I love the character of the grandmother of Lamia, Bibi, who's a very spirited presence and feels like both a source of resistance and
Yeah.
risk, especially when she teaches Lamia, her granddaughter, tricks to avoid being chosen to bake the president's cake. I wonder how you shape the performances between the children and the adults. So you get this humor and mischief and playful spirit of the kids, and then the sort of danger of what's going on around them without
Yeah.
letting them bleak. It's so well done.
Yeah, I mean, some of it you try as a director or even as a writer, you try to create these situations within the scene so that when the actors play it out, it feels organic, it feels all that. That's basically was our approach to do that with BB or even with Lemia, is to create some sort of moments within the scene that creates this kind of sometimes tension or even humor or love between them. And that was like one of those important things, because again we were dealing with non-actors, so like the idea of like um, using the traditional method to get them to where we want or what I want within the scene wasn't as efficient or as beneficial when doing that. But then instead, you need to create a situation or a scene that feels realistic to them, that feels very much, rooted in and grounded, and gives them very specific moments that they can shine in, and deliver the performance that I was looking.
You did it. It's very, very moving. Clearly an
Thank you.
excellent director. Yeah. So the president never needs to appear on screen in the film for his power to be felt in every frame. Although
Yeah.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say he does eventually appear, but we're not going to reveal
We
that.
will how.
We'll keep that close. But how did you think about the cake itself and as both an object and a symbol for obedience, survival, the way ordinary people are forced to perform loyalty?
Uh, I mean, the idea, I think, of the president is watching, or the big brother is watching, was very much something I got to know very much early on, because that's literally how life felt under Saddam's regime. That we would see him, or a picture of him, or a statue of him, or a report about him. Like, he was involved in every corner that we would look around. Like, even I remember, like, for example, even walking down the school to the home, and if I had a bad grade from an exam, every photo I see of the president, I see him like frowning. So like you feel like he's mad with you, or like he is laughing, and then like that's something very much, you just start interpreting all these images. You get bombarded with it, and so that was like the way that I think most of Iraqis feel towards Saddam. There's just like there is an unspoken expected, like there's an non-conditional expected obedience, and there is an unspoken rule that everybody has to follow that. So that was one thing. But like the idea of the cake, found it very intriguing in a cinematic sense because it's one of the most, sweetest, precious thing that so many people like. It's always a symbol of celebration,
Yeah.
and the idea of that this symbol of celebration can be a symbol of tragedy, can be a symbol of uh, struggle, suffering, and sourness. That's something so sweet, so beautiful, is comes from so much suffering and so much darkness, was very much intriguing for me. And the whole film depends on this paradox of like you see something in front, but there's something totally against it happens in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. Western audiences, I think, don't, they may know Saddam Hussein mainly as a headline or a caricature, not as someone whose birthday could dictate a child's fate, as we've discussed. Were there particular cliches or misunderstandings about Iraq that you wanted to challenge or complicate through this very grounded domestic story?
I mean, one of those challenges literally shooting a film in Iraq, because that already was a huge challenge. And we actually received a couple of offers to be fully financed on condition to shoot the film outside Iraq. But I was like, I would rather not to shoot the film on overshooting this film outside Iraq. But the thing is, one of them just to shoot the film in Iraq with a crew that's like, a mix of local talents and foreign talents. That was a huge step forward for me, and I think even for the industry here, because we are still trying to be establishing an industry in Iraq. And then I think we were successful enough just to create images to show people around the world images from Iraq that they never have seen before.
Mm,
Um I'm as an Iraqi, I'm very much aware of the images that most people had received about Iraq or conceived from Iraq, which is usually that came from news reports, that came from war reports, and all of them to a certain degree were correct. Not anymore, thank God,
yeah,
but to a certain degree also overshadowed one of the most beautiful countries and one of the oldest countries with the oldest civilization. So like for me, it felt like I need to show the other side of Iraq. Even there is a war, even if there is a destruction in the background, there is so much beauty in the foreground that we can see. So
yeah,
that was also another thing. The other thing was also like I feel like the knowledge about Iraqis usually was rounded to numbers and
yeah,
mathematical equation, which is like usually, in 60 minutes they ask Albright, the host of 60 Minutes asked the Albright that people, more than 500,000 children died in Iraq until now because of sanctions. Do you think it was worth it? This was more than Hiroshima. And she takes a moment and she says, yes, I think it was worth it. So for me, it was like that the 500,000 children just like they were just a number on, to be discussed if it's worth it or not. That was so frustrating. So the fact I feel like just to make a story about two kids, that that probably would end up as a number on the screen or a news report was very important because I want people when the film cuts to black and leave the theater or turn off their TV to think about these kids, to think about what's going to happen to them, to think about what's going to their life look like, how they're going to look like when they grow up,
yeah,
if they grow up,
yeah,
if they survived. And that next time when you read a news headline that says, I don't know how many people died because of blockade or like how many people died because of a bombing or something, that to try and humanize them, because all these numbers, all these people are like humans. They have stories, they have hobbies, they have dreams, all of that. So like what makes them humans is their journeys, and I try to capture that within this film.
you did. And what you're saying is absolutely important and critical to people understanding how to bring about peace and prevent war, because war is always started because we abstract another
Yeah,
people. We make them into numbers and we
yeah.
abstract them, and it's horrible and horrifying. And it's such a sad trend around the world, the way American foreign policy is going, not prioritizing people over profits, not prioritizing human rights and what makes us all human and connects us all, which your film really, really, really does so beautifully. It leaves you with these characters, these people you really deeply care about. I will never forget your film. It made such a huge
Thank you.
impression. I'm so happy that we had a chance to see it in a theater too.
Thank
Should we
you.
do the bonus question?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's do. It's funny because listening to you, it reminds me a little bit of documentary, but of course you're much more prepared and professional, and you've been to NYU Film School, and documentary can be a little bit more winging it often. But it's such a beautifully crafted movie that you've made. But stories like these often give rise to happy accidents, moments
Yeah.
when something unplanned happens, and you have to go with that flow. Were there moments like that for you on this movie?
Uh, I mean, there were moments I don't know how to describe them if someone hadn't seen it, but like I would say lots of moments came from the fact that the actors or the non-actors that we had were prepared for in a sense of like they never broke character. They were always in the scene. So, and we had lots of those accidents that coming from the rooster. So there's a scene that when Lemia, yeah, and when Lemia is reading the list, the rooster bites the list, and that's just like an happy accident that like I was very happy to capture on camera because Lemia was in the scene. She never looked up to the camera or anything. She just was with Andy because they were also friends. That was one of the nice things that we tried to develop in pre-production.
If you
And she, yeah,
Lamia and her main cohort
Andy,
and
yeah,
collaborator, yeah,
yeah.
he's
But like
he's
there are many happy accidents in the film. I wish to be able to show the scene and be like, okay, this is where something like unexpected happened, but I'm glad the actors did it anyway. I would say one of those things would be the we had one of the shots. It was supposed to be sunset, beautiful. I think the opening shot it was sunset and beautiful, but the what happened is literally when we set up the camera, suddenly the whole weather changed, and it became very dark, cloudy with all of the winds, and then we had to shoot anyway. Uh, and I think it was actually I was very happy about that
it works
eventually
really
because
well in the scene. You
I
brought it back.
think
Yeah,
yeah, because it gave this apocalyptic feeling to the
yeah,
whole situation, which I feel like it actually serves the film better than the beautiful sunsets.
yeah, yeah. You went with it. Okay,
Yeah.
wait. Now you brought up the rooster. I'm curious. Did you grow up with any pets, and is it normal to have a pet rooster?
So that's the thing. One of the things that like people from that region, especially from the marshes, they literally had lots of. They grow up with animals. Animals is really part of their livelihood, and the relationship between them and other animals, let's say buffalo, fishes, birds, whatever, is actually very different than city people.
Yeah.
So they really appreciate them. It's almost sacred to them. So and they deal with them on a daily basis. So that's why Benin or Lamia had her rooster. Everyone in marshes has a pet, whether it was a buffalo, dog, a cat, a bird, everything. Everyone has a pet, and her pet was the rooster. The rooster also like has a meaning in our culture, and I felt it actually fits perfectly what the purpose of the film. So when I
What's the meaning of a rooster?
I mean, there are lots of me. I mean, I think it also exists in other cultures, but like one of them is that you know roosters see angels or the devils, and they crow. So every time they crow, that because they saw an angel coming or like a devil. So in the film, we actually every time Hindi the rooster crows, there's a meaning behind it, that something bad or good is about to happen or happen.
Yes. And did you have a pet growing up?
I did not.
You
I
did
did
not.
not. I
Yeah.
did not.
I actually can hear a rooster in the background of where we are. We have these roosters in LA that wake us up and that are everywhere. It's very funny.
Okay, they like backyard rooster, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
um so thank
Yeah.
you for this wonderful conversation. And I'd love to tell people where they can see your film. I know my mom will love your film, so I'm hoping because Sony Pictures Classics bought your film that
Yes.
she'll be able to see it somewhere.
So it will be released in selected theaters in the US on February 6th, and it will be nationwide on February 27th.
Fantastic. Ooh, that's my grandmother's birthday. Interesting.
Okay, then
Uh,
that will be her gift.
yes, I love that. I love that. So much, Hassan. You've really made a special film that I hope everyone can see. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me and for this lovely conversation.